Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to you live from Southern California. It is this week's episode of Wrestling with Your Questions. I'm Jack Farmer, and with me today is the amazing co-host. It's Flobo Boyce. Flobo, how you doing today?
Man, I'm fresh off the AEW after show with the man himself, Jack Farmer. We is back answering questions, talking about news and updates and even reveals, as our title suggests.
Man, how you feeling today? How's life treating you? You feeling good? Speaking of which, we got to have you on as a guest. It was fun having you on as a guest. Anyone who's not watching the AEW After Show, by the way, on AfterBuzz TV every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, you definitely need to tune in. It's a fun time. It was fun having you.
Yeah, it was great, man. Getting to do the wardrobe change between shows, and which I always do. Every time I do an AEW show, I always make sure to bring a second wardrobe. So keeping that tradition alive.
And then, so something that I want to talk about. We've been teasing for a while that we have a big reveal happening, or a big announcement, and I can't talk about it just yet because, of course, TV 101 states that you hold off. You don't give it away right away. You got to push it till the end. And by the way, before I go too far, I want to give a shout out to our guys over at StreamYard who are keeping this running. But you know what? I'm looking at my face on YouTube right now. It's throwing me off. I'm all blurry. I even moved where I film so I can be closer to the router. Zoom works just fine, StreamYard. I have some gripes with you. I'm not happy about StreamYard. You know what, StreamYard? I may give Zoom a call. I have some pull around here. I think it's time to move on from StreamYard. I think it's time to start looking at another option. What do you think?
It doesn't matter that Zoom is its own platform and its own private networks, and StreamYard goes to the browser, and Jack Farmer has both the StreamYard show and the YouTube show at the same time. He demands quality because we only sell out to the best.
Exactly. So you know what? I'm over it. I want to have the announcement. It's bubbling up inside me. I've been wanting to say it for a while now, and it ties into our ties to good old AfterBuzz TV. And I'm just gonna should I just give them the announcement? Should we just say it? Should we just tell them what it is?
Yeah.
Is it time? People in the chat, you want to hear the big announcement? So the big announcement is that Wednesday morning, I am going to be interviewing along with Flobo. We're going to be live chatting with the one and only Vince Russo. That's right. I would say maybe the second most controversial guy in all of wrestling history, probably the most controversial living one. And we're going to ask him questions. We're going to talk about all sorts of stuff. And we're going to even ask him some of the questions you guys have. So if you have any questions, this is the time. Get it out there in the chat. Let us know. Chat with Vince Russo next week, Wednesday morning here on the West Coast. It's going to be Wednesday morning time. Flo, are you excited about this? Are you excited to be chatting with the one and only Vince Russo?
Respect to Matt Riddle. This guy here is the original bro. We talking WCW, WWE, and F. Guy's a legend, and I'm so surprised he took the time to speak to us because I thought he was done doing wrestling interviews, but we go beyond the wrestling. We go to the man and the creator himself. I'm so glad to be a part about it. So, yeah, man, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm very excited to chat with him. As I've always said, I'm a big WCW guy, and he obviously had a big impact on the way WCW wrapped up. He also was a part of the Attitude Era. He also part of TNA. Lots of stuff. As you mentioned, he doesn't do a lot of wrestling interviews and things. I'm sure we're going to chat about all sorts of things. I'm sure we're going to be all over the place, as our conversations tend to do. But yeah, we're going to get to chat with him. And there's a part of me, there's old young Jack looking at me right now going, I can't believe you get to chat with the former WCW heavyweight champion of the world.
Yeah. Wait, what? I was like, yeah. Hey.
He was the WCW champion. That counts.
Not his crowning achievement, Jack, but okay.
If Vince McMahon was the WWE champion, Vince Russo was the WCW champion. It's fair. It counts. And boy, am I excited. It's going to be a fun interview, and I'm excited for it. But it's going to be next Wednesday. It's going to be 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And make sure to check it out live on AfterBuzz TV. Both of us are going to be there. But you had mentioned another guy who drops the word bro. And we got to be careful making these bro references, because I always say bro is like glitter. You get a little bit of it on you, and suddenly it's everywhere, and you can't stop saying it.
Yeah,
so
dude,
we got to be careful not to just keep saying bro, because bro sneaks into your vocabulary very easily. But you mentioned the guy who calls himself the original bro. You mentioned Matt Riddle, and Matt Riddle had a little bit of an interview come out where he talked to Cage Side Seats about heat he may have backstage. Flobo, walk us through this. Walk us through kind of what's going on, what he said.
So the whole world's looking at Matt Riddle and wondering how much of it is gimmick and how much is the man. Spoiler, it's all him. And they set him down. They talked about what heat is, and he's like, "No, I don't really have heat. Is it the opposite? I think I'm showing people what you can do on social, what you can do on these watch-alongs, and to get your character over." But what I thought was pretty interesting is they talked about Goldberg's last run here at the E, and Riddle said, "Hey, look, man. People will say that I'm a jerk and I'm this and I'm that, but Goldberg's run didn't really help anyone. You kind of flattened Bray Wyatt. Good thing Bray Wyatt was able to recover, and he kind of came and went. It doesn't really help anyone. Braun doesn't feel like he earned his championship, which I'm inclined to agree. Now, Jack, I know you're a big Goldberg fan, but I mean, you can't knock that.
Goldberg. I love it. Yeah,
slapping meat. Two guys in the ring.
The thing with that, I guess, first off, the thing about what I love about Matt Riddle is he can actually beat the crap out of you. I mean, it's very easy to forget that in this world of pro wrestling, but he can really beat people up. And so if he talks crap about people, not a whole lot they can do about it. Right. You know.
Right.
So it's kind of fun to have him stir things up, and I think it's fun the way he does it. I'm sure there's a respect level. I kind of get where people who may not be happy with him calling everyone out might be coming from, because there's probably some respect issues there or whatever. But as a fan, I think it's fun. I hope he keeps doing it. As far as the match with Goldberg, I've said before, love Matt Riddle, love Goldberg. I don't think they would have that good of a match personally, because Goldberg just needs to run through people, and I think Matt Riddle would go into it wanting to having a good match, and Goldberg would go into it going, "No, I run you over," and that's how it happens. Do you think they have a good match?
I also want to imagine the backstage producer being like, "All right, Goldberg, first you're going to take a floating bro, and then a bro Derek." You're writing this down, Bill? He's like, "I'm not doing that."
I've always said I think Goldberg is meant for guys like Braun Strowman and The Fiend and those big guys that he can just run into. As far as whether or not it was good for anybody, I think it was good for the people who were buying tickets to the show where he won the title. I think that's what they wanted. They wanted to see Goldberg, and it's easy to get crabby about that kind of stuff. Now, look, I'm not in the industry. I'm sure people who are in the industry may be listening to this and saying, "Jack, you don't know what you're talking about." And the truth is, I don't. I just make it up as I go. I just think of it, as any other business. As a business, you make money selling tickets. As a business, you do what the people who you're working for want you to do. I DJ, and when I'm DJing, if people say, "Play this song," I say, "No problem. Yes, whatever you want me to play, I'll play it." What they wanted Goldberg. They wanted Goldberg to win. They paid a lot of money to see Goldberg win. So that's what they get. Am I crazy, or am I off my rocker?
I think in some levels you're okay, and I think we talked about this in the show before. I'm not knocking Goldberg's legacy. I know the kind of guy he is, but as far as that class of returning legend for big shows, it doesn't hit as hard as The Rock or Undertaker. And that's not Goldberg's fault. That's just because he cut his teeth on the side that lost the Monday Night War, right? That said, there are a lot of mid-carders, unfortunately, which you don't really want to do this to anybody, but you could have sacrificed a Bobby Roode or a Dolph Ziggler again if you need to do this in Saudi Arabia, because having The Fiend, who was previously undefeated, it wasn't a guy who was winning and lost and was a champion, being
Incorrect.
undefeated, Okay. That's stoppage, right? Whatever. Go to Saudi Arabia and lose to a suplex. Not a fan. Not a fan at all.
Well, the suplex, the jackhammer that didn't look so good. That isn't something that you can predict when putting the show together. So I can't hold that against anybody. I mean, I've tripped before off on a curb. Things happen. So you can't judge someone. Now you could say, hey, he had trouble with Undertaker. What were you thinking? Again, you're thinking the people who were buying tickets wanted to see Goldberg, and they would have seen right through if he had a match with Dolph Ziggler. Like it doesn't work that way. They would be like, okay, we get what you're doing. We want to see him in a big high stakes match. But you mentioned something that's interesting. You said he was on the side that lost the war, and I always think that that's a big thing because I never thought about what would happen to Goldberg if the WCW won the Monday Night War. I've always thought about what would happen to Sting. I always thought Sting would be considered way higher on everyone's top 10 lists if it had gone the other way. Yeah. But you're right. It's interesting. Goldberg's legacy would probably be so much greater had WCW won the Monday Night War, right? Like, we'd all be calling him like the John Cena of his era, right? Well, probably. Yeah. That'd be a whole different butterfly effect thing, but
yeah, because Goldberg is not doing Make-A Wishes at all. No, I feel like when people do their retrospectives, they always say, WCW couldn't make new stars except for one guy. But if WCW won, then that would just be seen as a genius marketing move. They were able to build new stars and have the good stable too. So yeah, I do. A lot of it has to be the fact that his legacy, and he came back fairly quickly. I think Sting's. Eventually got hurt because he came so late after his prime to the WWE, and then his program with Triple H was like womp womp womp, and then he got injured, and that was pretty much the end of him. But yeah, Goldberg would be a much bigger household name had WCW won.
I want to do a segment with you in the future where we go back and we say, where was WWE right? Everyone always talks about how crabby they are about what they did, but I want to go back and talk about where they were right. Something they did right. I think they did right. They had a debut last night. They had a debut on NXT. Not last night. Wait. Yeah, it was last night.
Days run together, bro. We don't know. Yeah.
Time is a construct at this point. Circle. They had a debut. Karrion Kross. Man, that entrance was star power. Blow the door off the hinges. Absolutely amazing. I don't know what they could have done better. I thought that was absolutely amazing. Was that the best debut of someone we've seen? Like, I would say cold debut, as in not just like, returning famous person or, cashing in something or attacking something. It's just like a cold, like, hey, I'm walking out to the ring for my match. That's got to be like the best debut in as long as I can remember, right?
Yeah, I think it definitely stands out. It felt like a movie. It felt like a movie in all the best ways. I'm not sure how this is going to work week 3, week 4, but that's, turn my brain off and be a fan. It was great. I'm kind of underwhelmed the fact it was kind of the match against Leon Ruff, right? He had to win his first match, his debut, to be strong. I kind of wish it was an NXT jobber or a Kona Reeves level, because again, I mentioned this on Twitter, Leon Ruff just lost to Sheamus on Friday. I mean, I understand personnel is tight, but if you lose to Sheamus and he's kind of a also ran, and you're going to go against... to me, it felt like, well, okay, this is kind of underwhelming. But yeah, the interest was great. Derek Fisher, Heel Fisher in the chat saying it reminds me of the original WWE version of ECW before it went all broken toys. It was like that weird hardcore revival with Kevin Thorne and Ariel. So yeah, I do see that too. And carrion is another word for, like they said, animal flesh. He mentioned that in an interview too. Big fan all across the board. Good things to watch for that guy.
It's now obviously they have a limited resources on who they can have in their matches. You said you didn't like Leon Ruff being the guy.
I did.
If you had just a typical NXT locker room and you could have his debut against anybody, who would you have booked him against? Who would have been his first opponent?
I would say Breeze, and the reason why I would say Tyler Breeze is, one, he's very safe. One, he's been there for a while. He's about the same build as Ciampa, which is the guy he attacked 3 weeks ago, which will assumably be the first feud he'll have. I think that'd be a good tune-up or warm-up. Yeah, you sacrificed Tyler Breeze, but he wasn't doing anything crazy now.
I think that's a great pick. I didn't even think of him, but I think that's actually a perfect pick because he's also a veteran, so that he stands out as someone who gets beat. He's also super lovable, so seeing someone like Kross just defeat him would have looked really bad as well. Like, it looked good for him, bad as in boo Kross. I think that would have been great. I'm so excited to see what he brings to NXT and what they do with him. He's someone who it was always weird for me with him because I saw him on Lucha Underground first, and I was texting you before. He was the only person that I thought I saw on Lucha Underground that I liked him less on Lucha Underground significantly than anything else he's done before or done after. You know, a lot of people like I love Johnny Mundo in Lucha Underground. I loved even Prince Puma. I mean, I'm more of a Ricochet guy than a Prince Puma guy, I guess, but it's not like a huge difference, you know? Where with him, I was not a fan of his in Lucha Underground. But then you see what else he's done. You saw him do stuff on the Indies, his match at like Defy Wrestling. I was like, shout out Defy Wrestling, obviously. But you also get like, Impact and all this other stuff. Great. And now, man, of course anything can happen, but right now Kross, I think, is whatever they invested in him and Scarlett, I think, worth it. You know, it's funny. I always say it's their money, so I always say whatever they paid, it was worth it.
Yes. First of all, I will never put over Defy Wrestling. I will never do it. Never, ever, ever. Guys, don't go to Defy Wrestling. Don't go to their shows. Don't buy their merch. Second of all, NXT is kind of needing of a character like that. How dare
you?
I have to. I followed that Matt Farmer guy, and Matt didn't follow me, and I was done. I defy.
Dare you? How dare you? Listen, I have a challenge for anyone who's listening or watching. Go to Defy On Demand, check it out, sign up, and watch as many of their shows as you want for one low monthly price. You watch all the stuff, and you tell us whether or not Defy Wrestling deserves to stand up amongst all the other great wrestling out there. Great stuff. If you like Swerve in NXT, and you're like, I wonder how he would do in AEW, though. You can see Swerve versus Cody Rhodes. Great match. It's like the first show. Don't quote me on that, but it was you can see the Young Bucks. You can see MVP. You can see all these great people all there. It's absolutely amazing.
And it has nothing to do with the fact your cousin works for them. Nothing to do with that.
No, not at all.
Whatever.
That has nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it at all.
I'm a
fan of guys like Jeff Cobb, and Jeff Cobb has great matches there. So if you're a fan of guys like Jeff Cobb, you should. Yeah,
I hate check out his Defy run. His AEW run was stupid, but I was going to say
that wasn't even a run. That was like he had a match. Come on, his run.
His run was so underwhelming, bro. I don't know. Where was I? Oh, Karrion Kross.
He didn't win a single match.
he didn't. He has a 0% win rate. That's what I gotta say. I don't know how you deal with that. No, but Karrion Kross is what NXT needs as far as like bending the genres of what that pure wrestling brand is. Like Kushida was supposed to be that spot the year before, the grand Shinsuke Nakamura, the Bobby Roode, this is the little bit of what the show looks like on the ground level. And so I think you had too many pure wrestlers for a while. It's good to have a little bit of spectacle, even though the spectacle of NXT will always be smaller than Raw and SmackDown. So I'm glad he's there. I'm really glad that he'll be a good fit, a good attraction if you do the house shows again.
Is he going to stay on NXT for a long time? Or do you think he's going to kind of be like Ricochet and get called up quickly?
I think he should stay. I honestly think they should stay. And there's a reason why I feel that way, and maybe because that division is near and dear to my heart. But the North American title needs help. We love Keith Lee. There's not much talent there that's comparable to him in that division. He's beat Dijakovic. He's beat Damian Priest, and you don't really have any formidable bad guys who are that size or in that mid-card, because you don't know what Karen is going to be, in that mid-card division. So I would keep them in NXT to build that around them. Because the NXT women are wobbling because of Charlotte Flair, but they're solid. The main event picture is, the story is built enough to have Cole run away with the belt, but that mid-card division is a giant hole.
I can't believe you're saying the women's division is wobbling because of Charlotte Flair. That is absolutely unfair. That is absolutely ridiculous.
No,
you are out of bounds. You're out of bounds. That's absolutely crazy. You've got a legend coming through into the deepest women's division roster in televised wrestling right now, and I absolutely defy that comment. But what I'll say is, now you say he shouldn't get called up, but that's what I'm asking is, will he get called up right away, or within like 6 months?
I'm going to say no. I think he'll get a year run with it. I do think so. But the Charlotte Flair situation, and here's why I feel it is. Because in North America, you could argue that the women's division of NXT is the best, if not one of the top 2 or top 3 divisions. The problem with Charlotte Flair is that she's the queen, and she cuts promos on Monday and Wednesday. So last week, the champion challenged Mia Yim to a non-title match. The match itself was poop. I didn't like it, but you can say Charlotte Flair is just that good. But then Charlotte Flair goes on to Monday Night Raw, a show that's 3 hours long, so the matches have to be longer, and she has a drag-out 2-segment match with Liv Morgan? How weak does Mia Yim look if it takes Charlotte Flair 10 minutes to put Liv Morgan away, someone who admittedly has no character? You know what I'm saying? So the fact you have Charlotte Flair on 2 brands is hurting that division.
You yourself have said before, NXT needs to be promoted more on Raw, and this is a great way to promote it. 2, Mia Yim doesn't make the entire NXT women's division. So to say that she had a bad match doesn't mean that the whole division is wobbling. And 2, I've said before, and I'll say it again, when you're looking at televised wrestling, I don't believe the length of the match outside of squashes has anything to do with how good a wrestler is. If it takes 3 segments for Seth Rollins to put away Cedric Alexander, it doesn't mean that Seth Rollins is now at Cedric Alexander's level, or it doesn't mean that Cedric Alexander is necessarily up at Seth Rollins' level. The length of time doesn't matter. It's all, that's all just a scheduling production thing, and them saying we need to fill this slot. And Liv Morgan is clearly getting built. She was like undefeated up until that match.
Undefeated.
I think
she wasn't. She got put to sleep at the Elimination Chamber. She wasn't undefeated.
Elimination Chamber losses don't count. Just like losing the Royal Rumble doesn't count.
The Royal Rumble doesn't count.
If you lose the Royal Rumble, it doesn't count as a loss.
Okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. But the Elimination Chamber, you can lose that match. I'm sorry. You can lose that match.
It doesn't count as a loss. It's a freebie. It's a freebie.
I defy you all episode, good sir. I'm done.
So everyone in the chat, comments, everything, let us know what you think. Does a loss at the Elimination Chamber count as a loss? But also, while we're at it and while we're in the chat, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's given us a watch and even dealing with the StreamYard stream I am giving you guys. I'm working on it. I promise. It keeps me up at night. But I want to thank everyone for watching along. And if you could do us a huge favor, I know it's annoying. I know every single video on YouTube asks for it. But if you could please hit the like button, leave a little comment, even if it's just to say, hey, I watched the show. That would be great. But like, comment, subscribe, that kind of stuff really helps out.
Nope.
And more importantly, I wanted to give a shout out to everyone who's been sharing this with their friends on social media. It's been super cool. Obviously, Flobo and I, we are hosts for AfterBuzz TV, but this is a little side thing we like to do because we like to interact more with you guys and answer your questions and things like that. And this gives us more time to do that instead of just reacting to an individual episode of a show. So we really appreciate you guys. We really appreciate you sharing it with everyone. I always have trouble seeing what's going on in the chat. Flobo, do we have anyone to shout out in the chat?
Yeah, Lola J is in the chat. Derek Fisher's in the chat. Haywood Wong came and went. You know, everyone out there is having a good old time talking about Keith Lee, talking about the fact you were plugging away. Oh, Eva's in there. What's up, Eva?
Hey,
Miss Kansas.
Eva.
Hey, what? What's up? Having a good time talking about wrestling and how Jack is wrong. on different nights of the week. So that's pretty much what we're doing.
I've never been wrong in my life, and I have the asterisks to prove it. I'm going to go ahead and, I'm going to mix it. I'm going to throw in one of Haywood's questions since you mentioned him. And I think this is one that Eva would like because it has to do with women's wrestling. I know she is a big proponent and supporter of women's wrestling, as we all should be. Haywood asked Jack and Flobo, for Thursday, will you guys read at Bella Twins' new book and give your take on it? Flobo, your thoughts? You're going to read the Bella Twins' new book?
Haven't read the book yet, but the articles are trickling in because that's how journalism works nowadays. And I was reading about, Nikki had some really dark times in her career. The Ronda Rousey story, how she felt that Ronda debuting at the Royal Rumble was a slap in the face to all the hard-working women who worked at that event. And my friend and I offline had a little bit of a discussion, debate. I didn't mind it so much at the time. I felt like, Ronda coming out and pointing at the sign was goofy. But I figured, hey, Royal Rumble is one of the more casual events of the year for new fans. Why not put the UFC champion or former UFC champion there to point at the sign? But, my friend was saying, well, these women are working hard. They built that match. It went from nothing. People watched a whole hour of it. It was supposed to be Asuka's moment. And they got almost eclipsed by someone who was new to the sport. So I guess that was really right for debate. Your thoughts about the book? Have you have a chance to go through it?
I haven't read it yet. I don't read a lot of the wrestling books, honestly. Maybe I should. It's actually something I've been considering doing more of. One of the reasons I don't read a lot of the books is because, frankly, a lot of times they all contradict each other, and you hear people say things like they were wrong, and that's not the way it was, and you just end up going, I read this thing, and I don't even know how accurate it was in the first place. Ironically, I'm currently reading the Nitro book as we speak, and ironically, I'm to the part where Vince Russo joins WCW, so it's kind of working out pretty well for that. It's all fate, but I don't know if I'll read it. That's not a shot against the Bellas. I just don't read a lot of the wrestling books because, like I said, you read a book and then someone comes out and says that's not how it happened at all, and then someone else talks about it, and then you have 4 different ways, and you're like, I just read this big book and I don't even know if it was made up or if it was real or whatever. Plus, as you mentioned, you see so much of the information trickle out anyways. I usually don't. I should be more supportive of it, but I'm just, this is transparency. This is being honest. I'm just probably not going to get around to it. As far as the Ronda Rousey thing, you brought up a good point though. Here's the thing. And again, if I was in the industry, I'm sure I'd feel differently. One of these days, maybe I'll learn the hard way and I'll be in the industry. But for now, I'm just a talking head, a pundit, and I get it. I get why I get why they did it. At the end of the day, it's, they always say it's a business. At the end of the day, it's not making money. And I love Asuka. She's one of my all-time favorite female wrestlers. Right now, she's absolutely killing it. Ronda Rousey sells more tickets. Sure. Straight up. Ronda Rousey gets more press. Straight up. Like, if Ronda Rousey wanted to challenge for the men's title, I'd say she should point at the sign. She wants to do whatever she wants. Look, right now, if Ronda Rousey said, hey, I want to take over Jack and Flobo, wrestle with your questions, and I want to talk about my own thing for an hour at 3 p.m. on Thursdays, we'd both go, yeah, if you want to.
I would protest a little bit. It's like, hey, man, no defy talk, and you're fine. But yeah, you're right. I'll give it up. It is what it is. I can understand being bummed out about it. Let's put it this way. We're at AfterBuzz. Let's put it another way. We're at AfterBuzz. We work hard. We're there a lot. Well, we were there a lot. You
we were
work
allowed
hard.
To drive
Yeah,
up
I
there.
kind of phoned it in every week.
We're up there a lot. I drive. For people who don't know, I drive a long way into that studio every day. Or not every day, but like a lot of days.
How many miles is that?
Miles wise, it's nothing, but it's like an hour and a half. Each way. Well, it's an hour back because it's usually pretty late, but I drive an hour and a half in. And so, it's a pretty long drive. But anyways, the point is, putting a lot of time. We're putting articles out there. We're doing social media skims. We're doing the after shows. We're doing these shows as well. But if we're being honest, if Kathy Kelly, who's now no longer with the WWE and is an AfterBuzz alum, if she came back and said, hey, I want to be the host of the Raw show, it's happening. If she said, hey, I want to host the AEW show, she's probably going to kick us out of our seat. And I would personally be bummed out. I'd be offended, but I'd also go, well, to be fair, though, she's got the star power. You gotta understand that in show business, that's how it works, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I think the Bellas should know that more than anybody.
That's what I was saying. I think it was really the source of that all. And to use your example, yeah, you can work hard all you want, but if you know that it's going to sound really bad. I'm not knocking AfterBuzz with your analogy, but you know that you're not the guy. If someone come in and say, we need the bump, we need this look, we need this following, we're getting someone else, you know that it's not the guy. And for a lot of people, that's hard to handle. That's a lot of people, they think, hey, look, I work hard, therefore my hard work means I'm the best. And that may not be the case all the time. Maybe it'd be a different direction, maybe just preferences, maybe somebody just likes Kathy Kelly's the way she does her thing better. But yeah, that's part of the business.
I mean, that's definitely something that I would start to think. I mean, like I said, it would hurt me. I'd be bummed. I'd be very like, how dare they? But at the same time, too, I'd be like, yeah, she's got some pull. I get it. Someone else who has some pull. Someone else who has some.
No, I'm just kidding.
John Quasta. Hey, John Quasta. I've never spoken in person with John Quasta, but we tweeted each other's stuff. Speaking of someone who's pull, speaking of someone who shows up and gets put in big spots, but no one writes books about how they don't like it. The Undertaker's last ride is coming to us this Sunday. I am absolutely excited about this. This is a huge deal. I think we rarely ever get to see behind the scenes with the Undertaker. What are some things you'd like to see from that show, from this documentary? Do you want to see what he's like? Do you want to hear about how sore he is? Do you want to see was that his last match? Like, what are you looking to see? What do you want to see from this?
Man, I'm all into like soreness porn, man. That's
soreness porn. Ugh. Ugh.
I was going
maybe Defy isn't for you.
I was going to say I would like to have a visual representation of his skull session. Now I can't even think straight. Like that, like his journey, getting the phone call, him always tweaking his character. Because I realized this playing 2K19, because I haven't played 2K20 yet, the universe mode. Mm-hmm. There's so many versions of the Undertaker. Like by default, there's like 91, Undertaker 91, Undertaker 02. And then Mod Undertaker. But then if you go into 91's Undertaker, there's also the 98 Undertaker, where he was like a satanic thing. And I was like, man, there's so many different flavors of Taker there. You can actually have a Taker versus Taker match. And his longevity and being able to evolve his character and his performance is absolutely inspiring. I'm a character guy. I went to film school. I'm a film school graduate. I love evolutions of character. If you guys have been watching AfterBuzz for the past year, I was super positive fan, and then I became like the laughing guy to Evan because he was so funny, and now I'm like super sports analytical guy. You know, I love watching evolutions of people and characters, so that's what I want to see. And I don't really mean soreness porn. I was kidding about that. Don't boycott me.
Nope. Someone clip that out.
No,
no, but I agree. It's crazy. You said you could have an Undertaker match. You could have an Undertaker tournament. There's so many different versions of him. I posted on Twitter a while back. If Undertaker got put in the Wax Museum, which version would you put in? Because every one of them is pretty iconic as well. I think he's on my Mount Rushmore. Absolutely. I want to know, was that the last match? Was the Boneyard match the last match of the Undertaker? I'm torn on it. I thought that was such a great match, but at the same time, I want to see more. I love the Undertaker. I'll be honest. They could Weekend at Bernie's him into WrestleMania, and I would say, yes, it's time. More Undertaker. I love him. He's one of my all-time favorites.
Tiger Mask him. Undertaker 2.
No, don't do that. That would make me sad.
I know the Boneyard match is a weird thing, but there's nothing cooler than winning a match at WrestleMania and riding off into the sunrise. I mean, on paper, you really can't top that. But without fans, it'd be kind of hard and kind of a disservice to have this person just whimper quietly. It's almost like when Tim Duncan retired, you know? Tim Duncan's a guy we always forget about, has a storied career, and he retires via press release. Doesn't even get a camera crew to his house. He's just like, I resign. Yeah. And it's like, you know? So, I want a big match.
Which, by the way, the press release retirement was peak Tim Duncan too, though.
Right.
Tim Duncan, by the way, is just absolutely severely underlooked in the best of all time debate. When you look at the numbers and the success of his team with versus without him, and the win, you can go look into it. I don't want to go through all that kind of stuff, but Tim Duncan should get more praise in the best of all time debate in basketball.
I actually talked about this on an episode of What's Up Flobo, exclusively on this channel on YouTube.
Yeah, we got Flobo. That's something we got to chat about. Our show is on your channel.
Listen, man. We got these streaming things, and we have this channel things. I mean, we can work things out, man. Relaunch could be coming soon. Who knows?
Relaunch could be coming soon. In fact, we might have guests on the show. We might have some guests on the show. Any guests you'd like to have on the show, put it in the chat, folks. Let us know who else you'd like to see. Maybe cut it up with us. You said something interesting, Flobo, about the Undertaker. You're talking about evolution. And the evolution of characters, but evolution can mean a lot of things. Sometimes evolution is a mystery, but sometimes evolution is about stables. And Derek Fisher asked us, at Derek Fish 789. Also, speaking of basketball players, Derek Fisher asked question for both of you. Who's the greatest faction of all time? He says Evolution. And, on paper, I got to say, Evolution did everything exactly correct as far as big star power. Every single one of them went on to have good singles careers afterwards. It had a good start, middle, and end as a stable. I think there's not a lot of weak parts in Evolution, but to you, who's your stable? Who's your best stable of all time?
The Mr. Raj, point blank. I'm wrong with the bullet. There's no one better than Mr. Raj. It's a hard question.
Yeah,
it's a hard question.
Over.
Yeah, exactly. Why are we doing this here? Because I don't remember last week they announced on WWE Network or .com that the New Day was the greatest faction of all time, 8-time tag team champions, and they should be up there. They don't get looked that way because they're a comedy act and it's all pancakes, but their longevity, they've been together for 5 years. Evolution was what, 2? A year and a half maybe? The first run? Mm-hmm. I mean, it was pretty truncated compared to the length of time. But if you think about the best factions of all time, it's really a two-team debate. As much as I love the Freebirds, as much as I love the Nation, it really is the NWO or Degeneration X. And the reason being is that those factions, as a unified idea, crossed over into popular culture. Like the Bullet Club, you have to be a wrestling fan to get that here in the United States. The Four Horsemen, it's amazing, but it's really wrestling fans know about the Four Horsemen. But everyone was saying, suck it, Grandma, in the 90s, and everyone was doing this for life, too. So I think those two are the ones you'll start with.
Yeah, I'd say beyond that, they're still doing Suck It, and they're still doing Too Sweet. I think that says something, that 20 years later, people are still doing it. I got to agree with you. I'm gonna say, and people who know me know my answer. It's the NWO without a doubt. And I'm going to put it out there. One, I mean, the size was just insane. The scope of that group was huge. The fact that to me, the NWO is what started the what we call the Attitude Era today. That to me is what changed everything during that time personally. But I'm going to say beyond that, I think what puts them over anyone else and what they have that no one else has, their name was in the name of the company for a long time. If you buy, you look at the Revenge video game, it's WCW/NWO. Their branding had both names on it. They had their own pay-per-view. They were so big as a company. And to this day, you look out in the crowd, you see more NWO shirts than most other shirts. And it's a stable that hasn't been around for almost 20 years. And I'm going to end it by saying what made them special is that they were so inclusive. And this is the thing that I think is the best about NWO. I say it a lot, but it's my little thing that I think makes them really special is when you join the NWO, you didn't just say, oh, we're adding you. They gave you a shirt and you put the shirt on. And I think what that symbolized for a lot of people is when you're a fan and you put on the NWO shirt, you're not just a fan of the NWO. You are the NWO. And it's the only stable that really feels like you get to be a part of that stable. Like when I wear a New Day shirt, I don't feel like I'm part of the New Day. When I wear a DX shirt, I'm not like, yeah, I'm DX. But if I put on an NWO shirt and I walk up to like Hulk Hogan, which happens all the time, if you walk up to like Kevin Nash in an NWO shirt and we're like, too sweet, he'd be like, too sweet, and you're like part of them. And I think that is what has made them last for so long and made them such a big deal. Is you're not just a fan, you are NWO, and I'm NWO for life, and because of that, I gotta say NWO.
That's absolutely true, man. I think I hung out with you for a whole year before I got a Jack Farmer T-shirt, and that was the happiest day of my life when I got it. So, absolutely, man.
Yeah, so you are Jack Farmer.
Yeah, I am Jack Farmer. Coiffed hair.
But I do gotta say, we chatted about this before we went online, and Eva's saying the four horsewomen.
But which one?
I want to say the four.
I'm kidding. There's only one.
The question.
There's only one.
But I was gonna say the Four Horsemen does deserve. We were saying this. They're kind of the template that everyone looks at for stables. I think whenever you say so and so should have a stable, the first thing they do is they add a tag team and they add the mid card guy, and they think who would be the manager. As soon as people say like Seth Rollins should have a stable, they're like, yeah, the AOP should be the tag team. Buddy Murphy will be the mid card guy. Now we need to give him a manager or whatever. And it's basically what the Four Horsemen as a template were. And so they definitely deserve a shout out. But yeah, I agree. I think those other stables were just so big and so impactful.
Wait, so who's the mid card guy? I guess Bartel will be the mid card guy in Imperium then, right? No, Bartel and Eichner are the tag team, and Wolf is the mid card guy. Ugh.
Yeah,
that group's not heavy.
I mean, if Walter's on top, whoever's under him, it's going to be a top heavy team because he's a big boy. Yeah, we got we saw the Four Horsewomen. That leads us to the women's wrestling, and that makes me think of Asuka. And when I think of Asuka, something I'm thinking about right now is how she has absolutely taken over wrestling during this no crowd era. The way she's able to work with no crowd and still be so fun and so exciting. She is absolutely the MVP 100% right now. My question to you, Flobo, as crowds start coming back, if you're a promoter, if you're someone who's booking things, do you have to look at these people who are doing exceptional things with no crowd and say, we got to push them harder. We got to promote them for what they were able to do with no crowd. Or do you say, no, this is sort of in its own box and it doesn't count once this is over?
I think you touched upon it before. You got to do what's best for business. So yeah, if you know someone that you didn't think was on the board came in and showed up and did their thing, you can put them in the spot. I think Austin Theory's not going anywhere now because he went to WrestleMania when Andrade couldn't do it. But if all the guys from Raw, Kevin Owens is like, I'm healthy, and Roman Reigns is like, I'm back, baby, and you don't use them, then I'm sorry. So that women's division in Raw, we talked about how it was slowly getting better.
Uncock my arm.
Yeah, I know. We talked about how it was getting better. So I think Asuka specifically will have a spot because the fact that she can express what she means without saying a word in English, quote unquote, but then be a different character on a YouTube page is fine. But I look at someone like Ruby Riott where they rushed back before having a decent storyline for because they wanted someone to be in the mix. If everyone was available tomorrow, I don't think Ruby will have another sighting for a couple weeks. So, yeah, you got to do what's best for business. And right now, if crowds are being open, you got to sell as many programs and souvenir cups and all these things while you figure out your live entertainment business because that's not going to be the same for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and I want to quick mention, I had also said Zelina, and Zelina clearly as well is one of the people who is stepping up. I didn't actually think about this until she mentioned it. It does seem like the women's division is really stepping up in the no crowd atmosphere all across the board. Because even AEW's women's division with Britt Baker has gotten to be really, really good. NXT's women's division, as I said, I think it's doing good. You seem to think the whole thing's fallen apart because
I did not
Charlotte
say
Flair
that.
is the
I said
champion.
wobbling. I said wobbling.
I think they're still doing good. I think the women have really done an amazing job during this whole thing. I think they're carrying things in a lot of ways.
So
Carrying things might be a little heavy, but you know what I mean.
I don't want to get too deep here because we're having a good time. But this is if I could be serious for a moment. That's
a good line.
Yeah, it is. This really shows that unfortunately in this country, women's wrestling is still not seen as equal to the men. And I hate it because women can go. Io Shirai told us we can go. But when we talk about women's evolution, the last one, it got really much reduced to a marketing gimmick. Got one pay-per-view, a couple of matches, and what's being evolved this day. I'm watching NXT yesterday, and Xia Li has a storyline with Aaliyah because one match a couple months ago, she broke Aaliyah's nose, and she's been in back and forth. I'm like, oh my gosh, a women's undercard feud. We haven't seen this in forever. And not every match has to be, I want title, you have title, let me get title. But it would not have happened if there was a crowd in there. No one's going to give the time for Xia Li to develop. And Aaliyah, the person we always make fun of on the AfterBuzz show for losing so much, time to develop. And to me, that's like the biggest thing. You want a women's evolution? It's about high time you say, hey, talent, go out there and talent. Don't just say, okay, let's get a women's match in here. Let's do a men's match. Let's do a women's match. And I know it's hard. People say that we don't know how to get these new characters over, and can Selena really go? She's better as a manager. That's all just conjecture, my friend. Because if you can't wrestle, you don't get invited to dance. Give women a chance. Give them a chance. For real this time, and don't try to brand it as a women's evolution if you're going to abandon it a year later.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. I believe it was Becky Lynch said that the thing they need to do is get rid of the word women and just start having matches. And I think she got some angry responses to that. But I agreed to the whole thing. I don't think you should change the name of the women's title to just the title because that becomes confusing at that point. I think it's fine if you want to add men's title to the men's title, but I think we definitely need to get to a spot where we quit saying, you get one women's match on the pay-per-view, or, you have to have this many or that many. We need to quit acting like they're separate and start acting like they're the same. I'm a huge believer in that. We need to start treating them the exact same. And that, like you said, you need an undercard. You need mid-cards. You need stories that aren't necessarily about the title, because that's how every other division on the planet works. And I think that's what we need to get to.
I didn't mean to cut you off there. I know George Hermosa, who is also AfterBuzz host, was saying if there was ever a women's undercard title, would you be okay if they gave it a name like the television title or like the whatever continent's left, the South American title, and not have a gender name on it like the IC or the US? Would NXT support that? Like a North American title for the men and then like a South American title for the women, or an African title? I don't know. African title sounds weird. Yeah. I don't know why that sounds weird. But
that is interesting. Why does that suddenly sound like a different...
yeah, exactly.
It means something different.
I have no idea. But if you had that for the women and not say...
First champion, Sheamus.
Right. Fella! Oh, man. Look at the imagery. Jeez. Champion of Africa. Would that be something like a different, like a step in the right direction, not just branding everything women's whatever? If the women's mid-card title at NXT was like a geographic title, like the men's, would that be one step further?
I think that's great. The only reason why I even think they need to keep the name women's title and like the women's NXT title is so it's not confusing. Like I said, because if there was two NXT titles, then it's confusing. And you're like, wait, which one's which NXT title are we talking about? That's the only reason why I think they even need to keep the name in there. But yeah, if you had like the Canadian Championship and it was for, well, I guess that's in North America, that doesn't really work. But like if you had like the South American Championship, why does that feel like it doesn't work either? But
dude, there's an Intercontinental and there's also a North American and a South American, like whatever. Or another American.
Let's take the AEW side of things. If you had the USA title on NXT and it was a women's division thing, the USA title.
Got it. The A is different, right?
Because I'm just comparing like the TNT title, right?
Yeah.
Or if you had the Fox title, that sounds like you're saying they're Foxy. That sounds weird too.
How about light heavyweight? Light heavyweight
works too.
Yeah.
UFC. Yeah, so I think that works as well. Speaking of light heavyweights, I want to talk about the Viking Raiders real quick, if that's okay. Do you think it's time for them to move on from the Viking gimmick, or do they need to double down? Because it feels like they got 1 foot in and 1 foot out when it comes to that whole thing.
Yeah, I'm looking at it as when they were in the car doing the carpool karaoke in the chicken leg or turkey leg, it was stupid. But I was willing to be opening and say, okay, now let's open up to see what Viking means. It could be a spirit. It could be, hey, we're just two guys that we embody what Vikings are. That's great. But the characters of them actually being Vikings only really works with a crowd. And I know most gimmicks only work with a crowd, but you have guys like, banging their chest and saying, welcome to the raid, and they're wearing the costumes. If there's no one there, you look dumb. You look absolutely dumb. It's like when I do a Zoom call and I just wear a shirt and tie but no pants. Yeah, when no one's around, it's great. But I'm not going to do that in public,
Yeah, it's to me, I think you got to be all in on it one way or the other. You can't be half and half. I think in this day and age, when you have guys who have characters like that are Vikings, it's hard to not be like, so what, they don't have cell phones? Like, what's going on? Especially when they talk. I've never been a fan of people talking, again, in this day and age. In different eras, it was different. But this day and age, them being on the microphone going, we're here to pillage and ransack your village, or whatever they're doing. It seems like, if they didn't talk, I guess it'd be less of an issue. But when you're talking and you're a Viking, it feels weird. I love them as wrestlers, though. I love the look of them as Vikings. And I thought the way they were used in NXT, I feel like that's such a corny thing. Everyone always says that stuff. I like how they were in NXT. But I think they're good at NXT, but I think they definitely need to figure out what they're doing with those two. A tag team that WWE tried to figure out and seemed to have trouble with was the Revival, now known as the Revolt. And I believe it was Haywood. I accidentally forgot to put the name in here, but it was on Twitter. So I apologize if I missed this, but it was asking about their interview with Jericho, the Revolt, Cash, and Dax. And he was wondering if it was going to be a hot interview. Now the interview has happened. Did you get a chance to listen to the interview?
No, it is on my to-do list, but I'm sure it has something kind of spicy.
Yeah, I haven't listened to it yet. I saw some quick cliff notes and basically how they were offered more money. From what they said, they were offered more money. They still turned it down. Vince tried to give them a silly gimmick, and they said that, if they wanted to do it, they would do it, but they would definitely not re-sign later. They confirmed the images. I don't know. Did you see the images, by the way?
Yes,
they
did. Those are, yeah.
They I don't know, I'll be honest, when I heard that was when they said that was a legitimate thing they were shown, I can't help but think that was Vince giving him the middle finger. Do you think that's what he was, or do you think he literally thought that's what they would want to do? Because I feel like that's so opposite of anything they would ever have wanted to do.
Sure. There's a wise sage. His name is Jack Farmer. He once told me to never bet against Vince McMahon. So you have these guys who are just no flips, just fists. Which I don't care how hard you scream that, you can't go to SmackDown, the most child-friendly, family-friendly brand, and be like, we're vanilla, French vanilla with bean specks in it. It's not enough. So I understand Vince saying, we got to get you some more color, especially in division where there's a Miz and Morrison, there's an Usos, there's a New Day. You just can't be, we hit hard. Maybe on Raw, definitely on NXT. So, but the actual comedy concept and them gyrating and stuff, they don't have the chops. I don't want to see Dax hardwood gyrating. That's not what I want to sign up for,
Yeah. Do you think they could have been villains, though? I mean, you have the fun, charismatic New Day, and then you have these guys like, we're not fun, we're wrestlers, Isn't that kind of a thing? Isn't that a great angle for them to come in at?
I say so, but over the past year, I bring that question up on all the after shows, and many times I got shut down when I say, hey, Forgotten Sons are pretty serious. Not enough? Hey, Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch are serious. Huh? Not enough? Hey, that guy Lance Storm was pretty serious. It wasn't enough. And I just I understand a no-nonsense person, but the only person I've figured out who can figure it out is Walter. And that's only because he's huge. Everyone else is being seen as boring when they try being serious. So, I don't know.
Well, Walter, too, we got to think, too, that he's not been seen as much as the Revival was on SmackDown and whatnot for a long time. Because the major audience doesn't see much of Walter at all. Because most of the audience isn't watching UK except for the incredibly dedicated group of people, or people from the UK who probably like him because he's from, there's another aspect of that as well. So it'd be interesting if we were seeing Walter every day on every week on SmackDown, and how that would age if he didn't change. what he did. But we'll see. I'm a fan of him. I like him. I like good old no nonsense wrestling. So I hope they do well wherever they go next. Seems to be AEW, but we always say they're going to go to AEW, and then people don't go. So we shouldn't maybe count our chickens before they're hatched.
It's like Netflix. Pick this up, please.
I always wonder why Netflix doesn't do more. They do like a wrestling show. I feel like a wrestling show would do really well on Netflix. We're out of time. I want to make sure that we get through a few more things. I want to make sure we get to this question by JHippo88 at Real Jack Farmer. The net positive or negative to the image of AEW regarding being fined the $10,000 for the lights out match between Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley at Full Gear a few months back. They got basically the mayor, I believe it was the Maryland Athletic Commission fined them, and they I can't remember what it was phrased as, but they basically got like a write-up for what they did with that hardcore match. Now, as Jericho talked about, and he said, $10,000 doesn't seem like a whole lot of money when you're backed by a billionaire, but it is a bad look. And if it happens again, they could be banned from competing in Maryland ever again and lose their license. To me, I think as a net positive or negative, at the end of the day, it still ranks as a net positive because that match is what made Jon Moxley in AEW seem like a world title contender. And they've now used that to build him into being an actual world champion and a viable good one. That's been done a pretty good job, all things considered. That said, I don't think it's something they should be planning on doing again and just say, whatever, it works out. I don't know how much you know about that specific situation, but in general, how do you feel? Do you think it's an okay thing? Do you think it's a bad thing? What do you think about that happening?
I am not a wrestling insider, but I'm going to go with net negative on this one. It's a lot of the things that say, hey, look, this match was so brutal and Jon Moxley is the man, but all that stuff was already sent across the time the match went off the air. We knew that match was brutal. The reason why it's a negative is that the world we're in now, the global pandemic, that puts a wrench in everything. So with businesses being shut down sporadically across the country and wrestling being seen as essential, whether you agree or not, a lot of times WWE gets flack for greasing the wheels and being able to open up. And if you're AEW, you want to be as under the radar as possible. Years ago when I moved to California, I worked for a company called Target. It was the worst job I ever had. And the reason why I work for Target is because I felt this way too. Hey, you know what? At least it's not Walmart. And, Walmart treats their employees bad. Target, good. And I realized it's a very similar industry across the board. There's not one company over the other. So if you're having content where it's getting fined, you could pay it off. You have a nice story to tell. When it comes around to saying, hey, look, why are we not regulating wrestling like this? Should wrestling be considered essential in the state? Why do these companies get to come and these other companies don't get to come? With bloodborne pathogens and airborne pathogens, should we allow this to happen? Definitely not negative because that's a bad precedent. That's me. Maybe I'm a prude. No idea.
So this match, just so we're all aware, this happened before. This was a fine four match that happened long before the COVID thing. So it's just finally happening because a lot of times these things have to go through a process and appeals and things like that. So this is all has nothing to do with what happened or what's happening now. It's something that was from before. I do get what you're saying though about how like the timing of it now, like it's not a good time to have these things start revving up or happening. Again, I think a lot of people had a different vision of who Jon Moxley was when he came in. The truth is, we can talk about, people who knew him from CZW. Well, look, CZW is not the biggest company in the world, and that's not a shot against them. But most people do not know what Jon Moxley was doing in CZW. They don't know much of what he did in Japan. They know him as Dean Ambrose. And Dean Ambrose, I think, left us with a bad taste in our mouth. I'll be honest, I was not a huge Dean Ambrose fan. I like Jon Moxley more, but I think this is a match that sort of helped to create that, and that's why I think it was worth it because this is someone who's now being used in a huge way. If this was no offense to like one of the undercard guys, but like if it was someone who maybe isn't in the title picture or we're not seeing on TV very often, or someone who isn't a big part of the picture, I'd say no, this is terrible, not worth it. But this is, as of now, the guy for them, and I think that's why it's worth it. If WWE did this to make Drew McIntyre a legitimate contender, I think we'd all say, yeah, that was worth it. If they did it to make, Kurt Hawkins, who later would be released, look like a big deal, then we'd say no, not worth it. As far as the COVID thing and people like being in the ring, having all the people around, and because I did see this in the chat. And that's what a lot of people are talking about. How come AEW gets away with it and WWE doesn't? I don't necessarily think that's true. I think a lot of people ask that question, and that's their way of saying AEW is not getting away with it. When it comes to whether or not the crowds are okay, in my opinion, I don't know anything about it. I don't know. I just know it's on the news. I don't know what's safe, what's not safe. I assume if it's within legal guidelines, then they're doing their part to be safe. And I would assume the same thing about WWE. I've never faulted either one. I know people say, well, people on Twitter, but guess what? The bad news is people on Twitter hate everything. That's my thought on that.
Just to put a follow button on this, the only issue I think, and again, this to your point, this happened months and months before this global pandemic, but let's say 6 months from now, something happens. Maybe, I don't know, a wrestler gets a DUI on the AEW roster. I can see, I'm in the future. Me and Kushida are in the future, and I can see, hey man, QT Marshall had too much to drink. This is the first time AEW was not in the news. A couple months ago, they got hit with a fine for blah, 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 blah. It could be two non-connected ideas, but now it's setting a bad trend. That was my point of everything.
I get what you're saying, and I think that's fair too. It's all fair. That's why I say it isn't that positive, but I don't say that in a. I definitely don't want to come across saying it in a like whatever kind of way. Like it is a big deal. It's and that's why I really like the way it was phrased. I like the way JHippo88 phrased it, and I said that on Twitter because the net positive versus the net negative, and thinking of it that way. I think it's close, but I think it turned out to be worth it. A real quick comment though on Eva. I see she said something in the chat about how she won't care about AEW until a non-ex-WWE guy is champion. I refute that. A lot of people hate that stuff, but I refute it because where else? If it wasn't an ex-WWE guy, they'd say, "Oh, it's just some indie dude no one's heard of is a champion." Like that's where you get your talent. That's how up until AEW was doing stuff. There was no superstar. There was no major stars. Who is? Flobo, name me a major U.S. wrestling star that has never been in the WWE.
No one.
That should be a world champion.
Absolutely no one. Because even Kenny Omega worked for Vince. So right now, no one.
Yeah. So exactly. So that's why I don't hold that against them. Because right now, I don't think that's a fair thing to say. Because that's basically the only place to get talent from. So I refute that comment. Take that. No.
Sorry, Scorpio Sky. Jack hates you. You will never be a star in his eyes.
I am a huge fan of Scorpio Sky. Scorpio Sky and I had a lovely chat on AfterBuzz TV a few months back, and it was a great time, and I recommend everyone check it out. The guy is a class act, really fun to talk to. We yucked it up for about an hour. It was a good time. Real quick thing I wanted to do before we go. I wanted to chat about I wanted to copy something. I want to copy something from WWE Backstage because I think it was a really fun little thing. And everyone on the show, all the hosts, gave their top 5 draft picks. If they were a GM and they were drafting for a show on WWE, let's say they were doing the draft in the WWE and it was Raw, it was SmackDown, it was NXT, you could pick whoever. You get the top 5 picks. Who are your top 5 picks? And just assuming you get 5 right off the bat, we won't go back and forth. Just who are your 5?
Yeah, I know you told me you were going to talk about this in the show, but I still can't think of, because there's so many good options, man. Do I? Because remember this year we did like the draft, and I had like a lot of the hidden gems,
Mm-hmm.
and I got like dragged on air for
Mm-hmm.
doing all the hidden gems and not the superstars and the money people or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're asking me today, the first week of May after seeing NXT this week, Dominic Dijakovic is number 1 overall. Here's somebody you can make work,
Really?
face or heel. Yeah,
Really?
I don't want to be like Jim, like my boy Dominic Dijakovic. But if I needed a
No,
big
he's
guy, put on a poster, and young and athletic, that's my guy. I'm a
I
big
just
fan.
and I just want to cut in real quick. Sorry to cut in. I say that surprisingly not as a shot against Dominic Dijakovic, and more, I didn't realize you were that big on him.
Oh yeah, see, here's the thing about my
That was my
punditry.
shock, not who he
Here's
is.
my punditry. If I'm on an AfterBuzz show, my job is to support the ones that are not getting the love they need. So if I like Dominic and everyone else does, like Jinder Mahal, we all love Jinder Mahal, but I was surprised because I thought it was just me, you know. But yeah, Dominic, Jinder, I'll use him too. That's my twin towers right there. I'll have the Miz and Morrison as a tag team. I'm not sure if that counted as 1 or 2.
We'll count as one. We'll count as
Okay.
one. Yeah.
I gotta go with my girl Jessica Mayer from NXT. She's gonna have a lot of upside. She's
New
tall.
thing of the week.
Boo thing of the week. And Xia Li. So those are my 5.
Okay, cool. I like that. That's a good, well-rounded. Would it be in that order? Dominic number 1.
Oh yeah, I think he'd be a hot commodity, and so I would make sure.
If it was a real draft, again, no shot at him. I don't think he'd be the hot commodity. I think people would be.
Hey, if Humberto
going
Carrillo
after
could be
it.
drafted, why not Dominic Dijakovic?
Yeah, no, I think it's funny because I was going to ask this question. I literally have not thought about it whatsoever until you started picking, and now I'm doing what we call stall, so I can try to think of.
You're on the clock, Jack.
I think if I could have anyone, my first pick would probably be Randy Orton. And I know that's probably a lot of people probably like, oh, Randy Orton, but he's a superstar. He's one of the best. He can carry a feud with anybody, and as long as he is in the title picture, he's going to make it seem interesting. Number 2 would be Keith Lee for me. I think Keith Lee's the future huge name. I think he's got everything you want. I think that number 3 would probably be Rhea Ripley. I am really big on Rhea Ripley. Also, Io Shirai would probably be number 4. And then for number 5, I think I would go with, and this is where I was supposed to think about it in advance. I'm trying to think. Let's just go ahead and say, so I can get them both, Ricochet and Cedric Alexander.
Woo! The 2 fly crew.
Yeah, I think you get a few big guys, you got some young guys, you got some up and comers, you got an established veteran, you've got 2 phenomenal female talents. I think that'd be my go-to.
I like it, Michael.
So I think that about does it for today. We went over a little bit. I'm a chatty Cathy. I always go over every single time we're done with one of these. I always say, I'm sorry I went so long. Lots of chatting going on. Would love to engage with you guys more. So definitely leave us comments, and I try to do my best to respond to the comments. So definitely leave the comments there. If you have some more stuff you would like to see or chat with us about, let us know. We can also do non-wrestling stuff if you have questions. I think let me ask you guys. Let me ask the world. Should I shave? I'm starting to get over this beard, man. I'll tell you what, man. This is not fun. Speaking of, Brody Lee, man, he has a beard, and I tell you, now that I can appreciate something, I challenge you, Brody Lee. I challenge you to drink a glass of milk and not have it all over your mustache when it's done. I challenge you to eat soup and have it not all over your mustache. It's terrible. I tell you what. So
The milk and soup challenge is on.
I want you guys to. I want you to try it. So I might not have a beard next time you see me. I might be over it. So stay tuned for that. That'll be the interesting part of next week's show. Yeah,
I'm in too deep, man. I'm on my 2nd year with this beard. I have more stuff with me with the beard than without, so I'm pretty much owning it.
I want you should shave just to shock us all one of these days.
This will take too long to grow back. I thought about it, but it isn't like, oh, in 3 weeks it's back. It will be like forever.
I mean, that's the bummer is once you do it, you can't go back. You know, you can't I can't shave and then go, you know what? I'm just going to stick it out. Like once it's gone, it's gone. And then I'm not going to let it get this long again. So like I said, I just want to see how long it can get during this quarantine. But now it's gone from being like, oh, this is fun. Let's see how long my beard's going to get to now I kind of just feel like a slob with just not shaving and taking care of myself, especially because the diet went out the window. So now I'm just feeling like this like lazy person that's not taking care of myself.
I've been doing DDP yoga, man. DDP yoga has been saving my life.
Is DDP yoga good?
It's good. I know we're going over time. It's good because like you're doing the yoga poses, but he gives them like wrestler names. It is DDP. So like it isn't like child's pose, it's safety zone, or it isn't warrior pose, it's road warrior pose. This is dope. You know?
Oh my goodness.
The diamond cutters, you do that, you go all the way back and Hulk it out. It's cool.
I hate that. It makes me
do it.
That's silly. But basically I've done yoga before and then hearing the normal ones for it, the normal names for it. It makes it feel like the Nitro Grill menu when I hear stuff like that.
Yikes.
Not even the WWE New York. It's Nitro Grill.
Yeah, it's even worse.
Because I'm a WCW guy. Well, that's it for us. Thank you guys so much for joining along. And again, thank you for the questions. Thank you for the chats. I'm going to work specifically on getting my feed fixed so I'm not all blurry next time. And we're going to chat with Vince Russo. That's really cool. I'm really excited about it. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments for so we can make sure to check them for Vince Russo. Go ahead to Twitter, talk about it on Twitter, share it with your friends. That is how we get this show going. Flobo Boyce, where can they find you online?
Man, you can find me all over the places. You know what I'm saying? Because you're on the show right now, you probably follow me. But if you don't, you can follow me on Twitter, @Flobo Boyce, on Instagram, @Flobito. Flobito.com is our website. And during these times, there's 2 ways you can support the homie. One, buy a t-shirt at flobito.threadless.com. And I also have a Patreon. Brand new content coming at least twice a week, up to 4 times a week for all patrons and all my friends and fam. Patreon.com/Flobo Boyce.
Can I get Flobo for mayor? Can I get that shirt finally? That's what I'm looking for.
No, because I lost that election. But I can get you one.
I don't care. I want a Flobo for mayor, or I guess it didn't say for mayor. It said for business development council or something.
Yeah, it was on the one I wore at AEW yesterday. It said Flobo for Palms Neighborhood Council #Boyce in the Hood. It had the 2 palms and the New York colors of orange and blue.
I don't take shots at cities, but the stupidest thing Palms ever did is not elect you, my friend. You can find me at jackcfarmer.com as well as at RealJackFarmer across all social media. You can also check me out on the After Buzz after show for WWE Raw every Monday at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, along with this fella, Flobo, side to side, as well as the AEW Dynamite after show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, both on AfterBuzz and also on AfterBuzz. I'm going to be there. Flobo's going to be there, and you guys should all be there too. 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're going to be chatting with the one, the only Vince Russo, and I'm going to talk about all my favorite late period WCW things like Team Canada. Talk about like the Filthy Animals. We're going to talk about Kidman versus Hulk Hogan. It's going to be amazing. We'll probably get off track the same way we do here, but whatever. Vince Russo. I'm excited about it. The dude so far has been an absolute delight, by the way. I've enjoyed chatting with him. So get ready to check it out, and we will see you guys next time. Till next time, do your best and be yourself.